Cyber briefing for Wednesday, the 17th of April. I'm Stephen Ridgway. Well, one of my favourite SSH clients, Putty, has got a vulnerability at the moment, being tracked as CVE 2024 31497. It affects Putty tools 0.68 to 0.80 inclusive, and it basically is a flaw in the code that generates signatures from the ECDSA private keys, which use the NIST P521 curve, and it allows the attacker to recover the NIST P521 private keys. The fix to this is to upgrade. Let me see. There is a version, I think 0.81, which has been released, which addresses this vulnerability. The underlying Putty code, though, is used in various other things. So be aware that FileZilla, WinSCP, Tortoise Git, and Tortoise SVN have got vulnerabilities or are affected by the same vulnerabilities. So if you are using any of those products, look for updates and check that you are going to be okay. So it's quite a specific vulnerability, but because it is a widely used and really rather nice SSH client and Telnet client, I would suspect that there are quite a lot of people out there using it. Keep up to date, patch if you can. Cisco warns of large-scale brute force attacks against VPN and SSH services. So Cisco's Talos group are warning of brute force attacks against a large variety of targets, including VPN services, web application authentication interfaces, and SSH services. So far, the services that have been spotted being attacked are Cisco Secure Firewall VPN, Checkpoint VPN, Fortinet VPN, SonicWall VPN, RD Web Services, Mictrotic, Draytech, and Ubiquity. Oh dear, I can't speak this morning. They are broad-scale brute force attacks using generic usernames and known valid usernames for specific organizations. It appears the attacks are rather indiscriminate. They're not aimed at specific region or specific industry. So if you are using any of these products, or in fact using any other products that for VPN services, or you have web apps with authentication interfaces, or you're presenting SSH to the internet, be aware this is kicking off. Talos has created a list of indicators of compromise for this campaign. So recommend you take a look at that. We will link to the articles from this briefing. Have a look at that and make sure that you've got strong defenses in place where you can, and that you are at the very least including these indicators of compromise into your security visibility tooling or your SIEM or whatever. You've got playbooks that will spot this stuff so that you can see when you are under attack. So I came across an interesting article in the Register this morning. The Japanese government has rejected Yahoo's InfoSec improvement plan. So, okay, does this affect most of us directly? Probably not. However, there is an underlying concept here which I think is one that we should all be aware of, especially as organizations go through mergers, acquisitions, buyouts, changes. You know what it's like. Um, so, right. The history to this is the Line messaging app, which is owned by Yahoo, allowed Chinese entities to read users' messages and leaked customer data after an attack or during an attack in 2023. The issue that the Japanese government has got is around how Yahoo got into this situation and what they need to do in order to um, extricate themselves from this particular mess. So, one of the issues is that LY Corporation, which is owned by Yahoo and runs the Line messaging app, was formed after the Japanese incarnation of the Purple Palace acquired Line from the South Korean tech giant Naver. Okay, that happened in 2021. However, the two entities have run intermingled tech stacks ever since. Okay, and one of the issues here is that they shared Line and Naver are still sharing Active Directory years after the acquisition. So basically, when LY bought Line from Naver, they never finished the technical work to separate the systems. There is a very there is a very significant risk, in my opinion, around purchases of tech solutions from of one organization by another organization, in that the unpicking the tech stack. In fact, this is kind of true of a lot of mergers or acquisitions. Unpicking the tech stack is never as simple as the acquisition or merger strategy says it's going to be. Because people who are looking at the costs and complexities of undertaking the merger or the acquisition very rarely have made an accurate estimate of how to go about either ingesting or cutting off the piece which is bought or sold. It doesn't matter which way around you look at it, the issues are still the same. There is a point at which both the old and the new owners are going to have touch points between their enterprises. Generally, one side or the other comes off worst contractually with well, this is how we're going to do it perspective. And let's say it's the the selling organization. There will come a point where they'll say, well, okay, yes, you can connect to our systems in order to get X, Y, and Z, or in order to do X, Y, and Z. However, we're going to very severely restrict it. Well, there are times where if you're sharing AD, it's very hard to actually really restrict that. So if you what is the lessons learned from this? Well, definitely be very cautious in either as a buyer or seller of an organization. Be very cautious around the security risks during that period of time when both organisations are in some way partly responsible or have touch points associated with this particular acquisition or demerger or whatever it may be. Don't underestimate the complexities of unpicking the tech stack. Definitely recommend that you get both expert advice from organizations that specialize in assisting with that sort of work, but also listen to your own tech people and listen to your own security people. They probably understand this stuff much better than the consultants and advisors who've put together the due diligence around the actual acquisition or whatever it may be in the first place. So I think it is a worrying trend that there are a lot of organisations in this sort of position. There's a lot of mergers, a lot of acquisitions, a lot of demergers. You just look on the news all the time. These things are going on in the background. The tech debt, the legacy debt, is potentially quite significant. And if two organizations are both think they're responsible, or more likely both think the other one's responsible for the security of this particular action, it can lead to this sort of issue. So yeah, I think Yahoo has got some work to do to try and sort this stuff out. You really shouldn't be intermingled with some other businesses' tech for 2 to 3 years. That is definitely not a good plan. On other matters, as I'm sure regular listeners will be aware, I have concerns around the security of things on mobile devices, particularly around using SMS messaging for multi-factor authentication and so on and so forth. Basically effectively using your mobile phone number as being part of your authentication chain because of SIM swapping and so on and so forth. Well, if you've ever wondered what the going rate is to pay off an employee to undertake a SIM swap, it now appears that T-Mobile and Verizon employees have been receiving messages offering them $300 to those who are willing to aid the criminal endeavors of the senders of the message. So that isn't a great deal of money, but equally is potentially enough to grab the attention of less scrupulous employees in these organisations. So I think it's interesting to know that the going rate, as it were, to compromise the security of your device is $300. Reinforces my view that whilst any MFA is better than no MFA, text-based MFA is definitely the bottom of the heap when it comes to this sort of stuff. So take a read if you're take a look at this if you're interested in this stuff, as I am. SIM swapping attacks are increasingly common, and to the point where spam text messages are used in order to entice employees to undertake illegal stuff. That just shows how common the approach actually is. And finally from me today, and this one again in the category of government big tech concerns. So the UK e-visa rollout begins today. So if you are living in the UK and you have a residence permit or whatever it may be, historically, those have been physical devices with your information held on chip on the cards. Generally, these things are. Those are being replaced with a fully electronic solution using e-visas. Um, so if you've got immigration documents like biometric residence permits or biometric residence cards, they the government will be Home Office will be sending you out an email to get you to enrol in their e-visa system. Which involves creating a UK visas and immigrations account, which serves as digital proof of your legal immigration status. One interesting one interesting quirk to this is that if you have a physical card or on your e-passport or whatever it may be, um, it, the data can be validated without access to the internet. Okay, so it can be reliably verified offline, and it's basically that's down to the way that the PKI on those particular chips has been set up. Okay, and it's quite robust. If, however, you are using a purely digital solution, what happens if you don't have access to the internet? I mean, we've all seen the chaos created at airports when the e-gates go down. So, if you've flown recently, I used to fly a lot more than I do these days, but if you fly regularly, you'll be well aware of the fact that you can have your passport checked by electronic gates. You don't have to go and speak to an immigration agent, authority person these days. But when those systems fail, um, it causes backlogs very quickly. So I think there's one interesting question around how are these visas going to be validated under certain circumstances. I don't think it's going to be a huge problem because I think the reliability of systems is going to be getting better. Then there is also the question around do we all trust what the government holds on us and so on and so forth. I think there are some very valid concerns in that space, but it's just an interesting point that UK government is moving away from physical cards holding digitized information through to just keeping the whole lot online. Well, that's enough from me for today. Hope you have a good Wednesday, and I'll speak to you again tomorrow morning.